Welcome back to another episode of Critically Incorrect, your weekly gaming podcast. I'm your host, Brandon, online here today with Charlie, if you wanted to say hi.
Hello.
Yeah, pretty light week in terms of gaming news, so just probably will be a shorter episode this week, but nonetheless, some pretty cool topics to talk about. But you know how it is, as we always start off these episodes with, we talk about what we've been playing over the last week in terms of gaming-wise. So, yeah, Charlie, take it off. What have you been playing?
Yeah, the main thing I've been playing this week is Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. I've been very excited for this game for a long time. I grew up on the Lego Star Wars games, and I love Star Wars as well, so I've very much been anticipating it. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to play as much as I wanted to because I on the day before release, because my copy arrived early, I encountered a really annoying bug where I couldn't progress through episode 7, which is what I wanted to start with, because you basically have the option to play through the prequels, originals, or the new trilogy first. You basically start at the beginning of each one. So I started up episode 7 just because I wanted to get through those ones first before going back to the originals and stuff. But unfortunately, I got halfway through episode 7, and basically, there's meant to be an icon that pops up when you're in one of the hub worlds to continue the story. That icon just never appeared for me. So I spent 40 minutes trying to find where it is before looking up a video and seeing it just wasn't there for me. Unfortunately, it still hasn't been patched, and more people are having the same issue as me on Reddit. So I'm hoping they fix it soon. But basically, I stopped playing the game for a day or two to see if they'd patch it, which they didn't. So then I ended up just starting up episode 1 and playing through the prequels. So I've played through the first 3 episodes, and then gone off and done a lot of the side stuff. The game is pretty big. There's basically, rather than having quite small, one small hub world for the game, each planet is like a mini hub world that has side missions that you can do, which are pretty basic. And then little puzzles to get kyber bricks, which are the red bricks from previous games that allow you to get new bonuses. They've also got skills and stuff that you unlock for the different character classes and stuff now, which is cool. Um, Overall, I'm really enjoying the game so far. Although that if it almost feels like, even though I know it wasn't rushed, it feels like in some ways it was. When you compare it to the old games, they've cut a lot of stuff out, level wise. So there's 5 levels per film. So I think there's 45 levels total, which is a lot when you think about the amount of content there. But when you play through each individual film, there's a lot of stuff they cut out, and put in cutscenes, which was in the original games, which is a shame because there's been quite a few scenes that I've wanted to play through, which I haven't been able to, just because they're not in the game anymore, which is a shame. And I've heard a few of the bigger moments from the original trilogy are nowhere near as fun as they were in the original games, which is a shame. But I'm still looking forward to getting to those, and I'm sure it'll be fun either way. But either way, there seems like a ton of content to get through, so I don't know when I'll beat the game. It depends on when they patch it. I guess hopefully relatively soon. But other than that, I haven't played much this week. That has been my main game. Other than that, mainly I guess Fortnite I've played a bit of here and there. Just playing that with friends occasionally. I'm really enjoying the season because of obviously the no building. They have added building back now, but I still haven't played that mode at all because I just don't have any I just don't care about the building anymore. I'm if I have the choice, I'm just not gonna bother with it, just because it's so sweaty when you play that mode. So it's nice to just chill and play Fortnite just as a casual game again, which is quite nice. So, yeah, that's about it for me this week.
I don't know whenever, where we're going to be able to fit this in, so if you want to talk about the Steam Deck, you can here as well.
Oh yeah, I guess yeah. So basically they added the Q2 people have started to get their invites to order their Steam Deck. Brandon hasn't got his yet, unfortunately, but I did. They did 2 waves this week. So I got my invite yesterday. We're recording this on Friday, so I got my invite Thursday night. So I've ordered my Steam Deck. I don't know when it will show up. I want to say next week, but I don't know delivery times and stuff. It's currently still processing, so hopefully for next week's podcast I'll have some kind of impressions if it's shipped at that point. I don't know though. If not, probably the week after. But yeah, I'm very excited to get my hands on that. yeah, just try out all the games. Like I've already set up like a folder on Steam of just stuff I want to play on the deck, because I've got a few games I've been waiting to play on there, and then some others that I just want to replay, like Half-Life and Portal. I'll definitely end up replaying on there, because obviously they've had some patches to get them like fully supported on deck, which is cool. But yeah,
Yeah, in terms of what I've been playing this week, I have played pretty much like a few games. No Elden Ring this week. I still haven't played Elden Ring. I think it's almost been like 2 weeks since I played Elden Ring. Yeah, I just haven't played
damn.
it much since I came back to uni. But what I have been playing instead is I'll start off with the smaller games. So I did end up checking out the PS Plus games, and I started going into Slay the Spire. I only did like one run. It was like 20 minutes long. But I'm definitely going to continue that this weekend because I got some free time. Very addicting game. I love it so much. I might switch it over to PC though because I do have it on Game Pass, I think as well. Just feels like a better game to play on PC. But yeah, that game's great. Besides that, it's mainly been Until Dawn. I picked up Until Dawn and just started pretty much playing it. I'm near the end of the game. I want to say I'm like 2/3 through. It's not that long of a game. It's only like 6 hours long. So I'll probably beat it tomorrow, and I'll have my full impressions of that. I know a lot of the big plot points because they kind of got to like the big turning point of the story, which is cool to see. So yeah, that's like I completely always forget that Until Dawn I've never played like fully. I like started it like years ago, and I only got like through the first 30 minutes, and I just wasn't
Oh,
really
okay.
hooked into it. They just did a bunch of like cheap jump scares and stuff like that. I was like, there's not really much tension here. Which I still think there's not a lot of tension in that game. A lot of it is like really cheap, like teen drama jump scares. But how I ended up did playing it though was because this week, we'll talk about this later on in the episode, Supermassive did drop like the first 30 minutes of the Quarry. And I did check that out. I watched the full 30 minutes of it, and that game looks really, really good. Even playing like Until Dawn now and watching that footage, I think they do like suspense a lot better in that game, honestly. And it looks really high production. It looks just like Until Dawn quality was back then in 15, whenever that game came out. So yeah, I'm definitely on board on that. That's pretty much been all I've been playing. I do want to hop back into Elden Ring. Definitely gonna have some more stuff to play this weekend. But yeah, we'll move on to gaming news, and yeah, we'll start off with a pretty big news story. Return to Monkey Island was announced this week. So yeah, a lot of people will know what this is, and a lot of people won't if you're relatively young. I mean, I myself don't really know too much about these games, but I just know they're beloved classic games. A lot of veteran game developers are obviously, for good reason, going crazy when this was announced earlier this week. Yeah, obviously, this is going to be a sequel to Monkey Island 2, so if you're familiar with those games, yeah, they're bringing back the original creators on that, which is really cool to see. It's yeah, one of those announcements that's like really beloved, obviously, but also just one that you don't really see coming, right? Like there's plenty of games that we want sequels of, Half-Life 3. But like a lot of these games, like sometimes we don't even realize that they're gonna get sequels, right? So this is like a really cool surprise to see it coming back, kind of like in the best of ways. So yeah, Charlie, what are your thoughts on this? And are you planning on picking it up, checking out Monkey Island now? Have you already played Monkey Island? Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a like out of nowhere surprise, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Ron Gilbert's worked on a lot of stuff since Monkey Island. I think Monkey Island 2 came out like 1991. So it's like what 31 years ago,
Yeah.
which is crazy. And he's done a lot of stuff. I personally am a massive fan of some download games he did back on PS3 called Death Spank. I don't know if you ever played these, Brandon.
I have not.
Um, but they were like Diablo style, like top down action games. You play as this weird dude called Death Spank, and they were like comedy games, very much similar writing to Monkey Island. They were really good. They did three of them. He worked on two, and they did a third one, which wasn't as good as the first two, but they were great games. And then he did another game called The Cave, which I really enjoyed. Um, I know a lot of people really like Thimbleweed Park, but I never played it. But it is one that I've wanted to play over the past few years, so
I've
maybe
heard that
I'll
one. Yeah.
finally go to it. But I have played Monkey Island 2 because it's one that my stepdad at the time he had Monkey Island 2 on PS3 because they did like a special edition. So I've played through 2. I've never played through the original, and I've played through the Telltale game from way back when, which was originally a sequel, but basically they're not really canon anymore. I think they did 3 games after 2, but they're basically saying this is, not. It's kind of ignoring those. I think they said some characters from 3 might show up in this. but it is more just a sequel to his original two games. They're bringing back a lot of the team, and the voice actor for Guybrush is coming back for it. And Lucasfilm Games, who originally made those, are publishing it, I believe, or at least they're involved in some way. And it's coming out this year, which was crazy. I'm surprised we didn't hear anything about this because
Yeah,
it's
even Jason Schreier didn't even know about this.
like you
Just
said, yeah,
crazy.
even Jason Schreier had no idea, which is cool. But yeah, I definitely want to go back and at least play the first one because I've only ever played two. They're both on Steam, so it might be one I end up picking up in a sale or something and then play on Steam Deck, just because it's that kind of ideal point and click type game. But yeah, I remember really enjoying two, so I'll definitely be picking it up when it comes out. But yeah, completely out of nowhere announcement.
Yeah, no kidding. That's crazy. That's awesome though. And yeah, I'm sure we'll see more of it in the coming months as the game's slated to come out this year, which is crazy. But yeah, we'll move on. Anyways, another smaller news story here comes in the form of Rogue Legacy 2. I just got a quick, release date announcement, and that's April 28th. So yeah, just in a few weeks now. Rogue Legacy, obviously one of like the most beloved indie games, at least on the PS Vita, it was for sure. Just one of those great roguelikes. I'm surprised like a sequel took this long, but I'm sure they've been working on it quite a long time now, right? And wanted to get it right. So that's awesome to see. I played a bit of Rogue Legacy back on the Vita and I loved it. Yeah, it was just a very fun game to play portably. So I imagine it will be here too as well. Yeah, just awesome to see it coming out. And yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Charlie? Have you played Rogue Legacy?
Was Rogue Legacy the one where when you die you came back as like your son
Descendant.
or daughter or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
it's that one on the
Yeah,
Vita.
okay.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
just in general.
I think that was on PS Plus, right? Because I seem to remember playing it on like PS4 for a
I think
bit.
so.
I I want
One of the
yeah, I want to say it
early.
was on
Yeah.
PS Plus. I didn't play much, but I remember playing it a little bit, and I just couldn't get into it. But that was a long time ago, so that was a
Mm,
younger me, a more naive me that didn't play as many like indie games. So maybe
exactly.
I'll go back at some point and give it a go. Because yeah, I haven't seen too much about the second one. I remember it initially getting announced a few years back. But yeah, it's not one I'm like too familiar with. I don't think this is coming out on PlayStation though, right? I think this is like PC and Xbox only at launch, as far as I
I
know.
want to say you're right with that. Let me just double check that
Yeah.
so we have the facts right. Yeah, so it's gonna be PC and Xbox, and it's
Okay.
been out in early access apparently. So this is
Okay.
like an official release. So I guess that answers our question. It's been in early access since 2020. So there you go. Yeah, just an official release, which makes sense. Yeah, that's cool to see. And yeah, we will move on to Halo Infinite. So yeah, Halo Infinite's second season is finally launching May 3rd. I think we talked about this like months back when they were talking about like launch issues and they decided to delay season 2 to May so they could focus on like bugs and stuff like that. And I mentioned that like a second season 6 months after a game came out would be kind of weird. Yeah, nonetheless, it's dropping here May 3rd. Not sure how well the player base is for Halo Infinite currently at the moment. I'm sure like the Halo community is still playing it, obviously, but I definitely haven't really heard too much about it just in the general eye. Um, but yeah, that's interesting. Pretty sure it's just more like on the cosmetic side. They might be adding. Charlie, are they finally adding co-op, or is that still further
They
down the
delayed
line?
it.
They delayed it. Okay, so yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like just new maps, new modes, battle pass, like the standard stuff for a new season. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Charlie? You've definitely played more Halo than I do, so
I haven't played Infinite since last year. I don't think I've played it at all this year.
same.
Mainly just because I got through most of the campaign and I just got a bit bored of it, and I decided that I was just gonna wait until co-op campaign came out, just to finish playing it with my mate James, who's a really big Halo fan. And even he's not really playing Infinite. He got to the end of the pass and then just stopped playing because he just didn't have an incentive to keep playing. So here, I think we're probably both gonna like dive into this one. But yeah, we were waiting for co-op campaign that was meant to come with the launch of season two, but a few weeks back they did delay co-op campaign yet again, which sucks. Especially because it's such like a big feature for the Halo series. Like I'm shocked it's taken them this long to add it. Um, also, it's weird because there's features in the campaign you play it and you just tell it's designed for co-op campaign and stuff. So it's kind of weird. Hopefully it's coming before season three. I know they're only gonna have like a 3 month gap, I think, between seasons now. Like it won't be as long as the season 1 to 2 gap. Although saying that, that gap is still nowhere near the levels of Battlefield 2042, which is still waiting for its first season. So it could be worse. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna give it a go. It doesn't look like they're adding a ton, so I don't know how much I'll stick with it, but I'll definitely see what's going on with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know if I'll reinstall it. I think I uninstalled it like literally the other day. I played like
Okay.
once so far in 2022 with Josh, uh, Josh A. But yeah, that was about it. So I never even touched the campaign, even though I do have that for Game Pass. I've just heard mixed things on it, and obviously I still have to play like the original Halo, so I'd probably do that first. Just Halo 1 is such a long game, man. It's crazy. But yeah, we'll move on. Anyways, I kind of talked about this earlier on the show, but yeah, the first 30 minutes of the Quarry were shown off through IGN First. Obviously, if you're already hooked onto this game, like you played Until Dawn, I'd say if you're a fan of Until Dawn, it looks just like that caliber, if not better. So that tells you enough going into this. You don't need to watch it, but I was like on the fence, so I decided to watch it, and I definitely am really glad I did because I'm definitely sold now. It got me to play Until Dawn, which I'm almost done beating now. Yeah, it looks great. Has that summer vibe to it. We talked about this earlier when it was announced on the podcast. Yeah, it just looks pretty good. I know Charlie, you said that you're staying away from it. I imagine you're planning on picking it up, right? Then.
Yeah, basically I was talking to a load of people from work about it earlier in the week, and we're planning to get like a group together to play through it because I think it's like 7 or 8 players. And that a lot of them have played like the Dark Pictures games. I still haven't played any of those. But they usually get a small group together to play those. So yeah, I think we're planning to get a bigger group together for this one and have a couple nights just having a few drinks and playing through the game, which will be fun. So yeah, that's why I'm staying away, just because I don't want to see too much going into it. I did watch a little bit. I skimmed through some of the gameplay, and yeah, like you said, it's very much like Until Dawn and the Dark Pictures games. Like it plays very similarly. But that's not an issue. I really liked Until Dawn. This is being directed by the guy who did Until Dawn. This is the first thing he's done since then. So it is very much a spiritual successor to that game specifically. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. I don't know. I don't think I'll see any more, to be honest. It's coming out in like June, right? So it's only
Yeah,
a
it's
few months
close.
away now. So yeah, I'll hold off for a few more months. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Excited to give it a go. Should be a bit of a laugh, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think like that. Situation playing with friends is the best way. That's how I've been playing it. I've been sharing my screen through Discord with Kim since she's played through
Yeah.
those games before. It's just the best way to experience those games for sure. And I think they're like actually, as you said, they're fully supporting co-ops. You can make those decisions together once the Quarry comes out, which is awesome. So yeah, just a few months now. It's awesome to see that this has such a quick announcement to release turnaround, which is awesome. And yeah, we'll move on to a cool collaboration between Lego and Epic. So yeah, they're teaming up to build a space for kids to play and create in the metaverse. Very vague details. Just a partnership there that honestly I was kind of surprised because like Lego has done stuff with like Unity in the past with like projects you could do with Unity, but yeah, they're teaming up with Epic this time to build like a space for the metaverse. No idea what that means. I know obviously Epic's like working really hard on like metaverse stuff. Obviously look at Fortnite and like everything they've been trying to do with that and like the virtual concerts. I imagine they probably have experiments, at that studio itself, looking into how they can tap into that, right? Yeah, teaming up with Lego makes sense. That's another big brand that's kind of as iconic like Fortnite is, very kid friendly IP. So, yeah, very cool stuff there. Obviously, very light on details at the moment, just a partnership announcement. But what'd you think of that, Charlie?
Yeah, it's interesting. Especially like more recently, I know Lego and like TT Games like exclusivity contract has been coming to an end, so they've been stretching into a lot more developers. They did that was it like Builder's Journey or something last year, which was with some indie studio that had like RTX support and stuff, like a small puzzle game that was pretty cool. And they're working on like another puzzle game with another studio that's coming out this year, and now they're partnering up with Epic. So they seem to be working with a lot more teams, which is cool. I'm definitely interested to see what this is. I think it will be similar to something like Lego Worlds, which was like a multiplayer, like Minecraft creative looking thing, but with more social elements. I'd really like to see it kind of be like Lego Universe. I don't know if that's a game you ever saw or played,
I've
Brandon.
seen it. I haven't played it myself
Um,
though.
yeah, Lego Universe was really cool. It was basically like kid-friendly MMO is what it was. I remember getting it when it came out, and it kind of flopped because when it initially launched, it had a subscription to play, and obviously for kids, that's not really ideal. At least at the price point it was at, it wasn't like Club Penguin where you can play it for free and you can buy the currency or whatever to play some of the modes. You literally had to pay a monthly subscription for it, which wasn't ideal for a kids game. It did become free to play for a bit, but they ended up having to shut it down. But it was a really cool like social MMO with like Lego building and like a lot of the not like licensed brands, but a lot of the Lego specific brands, so like the ninjas and like knights and stuff like that. I remember it was a lot of fun. So if they did something similar to that, that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what it turns out to be. I do hope it's something that's not just like a social like thing. I hope there is like game stuff to it, which would be
Yeah.
cool. Whatever Epic and Lego do, I'm sure it'll be fun enough for kids. But if they can entice me in as well, I really like Lego, so I'm definitely interested to see what it ends up being. But it's cool to see.
Has a lot of potential because Lego is, similar to like Roblox and Minecraft, where it's like
Yeah,
very easy to just build on that foundation, right? I mean, that's really what Lego is, to just build like a bunch of stuff and have like, an online shop full of like a bunch of content to just jump into. It's always weird seeing like metaverse stuff like that because like in a way I always feel like games like Roblox and like Minecraft in a way are already doing that in a way, but who knows, man? Metaverse is just one of those exciting terms that companies like to throw
I was
around.
gonna say I think it's more a word than anything, right? Like people
Yeah,
see metaverse and they start to like cringe out and stuff. But I think it's just the term they're using now. Like stuff like that already exists. Like you said, like Roblox is basically a
yeah.
metaverse, right? Like it's just a platform where people can meet up socially, or there's tons of games they can play together and make games. Like, and there's currencies that you can trade in. So
Yeah.
like, it basically is already a metaverse. They already exist. It's just they never really used that term before Facebook or Meta, I guess, right?
Yeah, or not maybe even to like the big scale that like a lot of companies want to hit or something. I don't know now, but
Yeah.
it's definitely existed in some fashion, right? But yeah, it's cool to see. It's obviously going to be like a kid-friendly metaverse, which I think is important to have. Uh, but yeah, that's cool. And anyways, going into a Ubisoft story, which I feel like we haven't heard from Ubisoft in a while. Ghost Recon Breakpoint support is ending, which isn't that very surprising. A new game is expected for the financial year of 2023. So I think that's starting from like just recently, like this March to next March, I want to say, or it could be the March after that. I don't know. Financial years always kind of confuse me over like actual years. Do you know if it's within the next year or if it's within the next 2 years that the next game's
Yeah,
going to be
I think
releasing?
it's this year, so it's from like
Okay.
March to next March.
I was gonna say the time frame makes sense for it to be this year. Yeah, it's been weird. I feel like we haven't seen or heard stuff from Ubisoft in a while. What's the last game they've done? Like maybe Riders Republic?
Uh, yeah, Riders Republic. I mean, they did that expansion for Assassin's Creed. Whether you class that as like a full
Mm-hmm.
project, right, is up to your own interpretation. But yeah, I think they're just kind of like play it. They're keeping their hand close, so when they eventually do another one of those Ubisoft Connect things, they can
They
just
actually
show off
have
a
a
ton.
show. Yeah,
Yeah. Because I
makes
mean, I
sense.
suppose the next big thing for them is probably Mario, right? Mario and Rabbids. That's probably the
Oh my
next
god, I
like
want that
big
game.
game for them. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited for that one.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like they need to do really good at this next game because I feel like the Ghost Recon name doesn't have like a lot of goodwill with it. I don't know. When I see Ghost
Yeah.
Recon, I think of like now NFTs and just like
Yeah.
a failed last sequel. So they kind of need to turn that IP around. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? I imagine you're not really that excited, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really been a big Ghost Recon fan. I was always more of a fan of the Rainbow Six games back in the day.
Same.
And I tried getting into Wildlands, but it wasn't really for me. And then I remember Breakpoint coming out, and my housemate back at uni bought the game on day one. And I remember just watching him play it, and I was just like, God, why would you buy this game? Like it was such a mess, and it had all this weird gear stuff, and I was like, this is such a weird game, man. Like they took a cool foundation with like I've forgotten the name of it already, Wildlands,
Wildlands.
and just like completely destroyed it, like just trying to make it something it wasn't. And I know they patched the hell out of the game and made a lot of tweaks to make it more like Wildlands and some of the older Ghost Recon games. And I think most people who play it now are in agreement that the game's in a much better state. But I imagine it just at this point it wasn't selling great. The NFTs probably didn't help at all. Although I did see Ubisoft kind of double down on it and said that they're still
Yeah,
planning to do NFTs for other things. I was like, come on, man, just give it up. Nobody wants them.
yeah.
But it was funny because I think they said something like
We
people who
know
bought
that.
the
Yeah,
Ghost Recon NFTs, you're a part of its history. Like no one's gonna fucking remember Breakpoint NFTs. Like they ain't going anywhere in value. Let's be real. So yeah, kind of weird. A new game makes sense. I know they're working on that weird free to play Tarkov S game, but it got like reworked or something. I know Tom Henderson was saying because of the massive backlash to it. So I don't know if it's getting like an X Defiant rework where they're just going to remove Ghost Recon from it. Because I know X Defiant now is just its own thing. It uses, I think it still uses like the different games, right? Like it still has the Watch Dogs people and it has the Ghost Recon people in it, but it's not Tom Clancy anymore, which I think is for the
hmm
best after that backlash. So I wonder if they're doing a similar thing with the Ghost Recon game. Because yeah, I don't think it was received too well, but hopefully it's a return to form with whatever's coming next for them. But who knows? It's Ubisoft, man. They're hard to predict these days.
yeah. No kidding. That's a good, smart move to remove the Tom Clancy name, just because it doesn't really feel like a Tom Clancy title, really. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, when I played it, it was all right. Like it felt like I was playing like a traditional PS3 shooter. It's just as I've said always, time and time again. Like in order to be like successful in the multiplayer space, like you really gotta have like a really good product and be free. It's like insanely competitive because like you gotta convince someone to like drop like the main game they're playing, right? To play your multiplayer game essentially, and it just wasn't like amazing. Obviously, it was a beta test, so like I was that's the whole part, right? But yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. Hopefully, it'll develop better and better. I know they've been doing more playtests recently, as I've seen on Twitter, so that's cool. And yeah, we'll move on. Anyways, an exciting announcement that was announced this week as part of, I believe, Epic's State of Unreal is the fact that a new Tomb Raider is being developed by Crystal Dynamics on Unreal Engine 5. So, yeah, very excited about this. Obviously, Tomb Raider is one of the, you know, more beloved franchises to me. Just, it's like Uncharted in a way where I love those, just exploration titles, right? Very, very fun. Uh, Obviously, very light on details. I'm glad Crystal Dynamics are working on that. Going back to what they're good at, right? I have a really like weird opinion on the trilogy. Like, I do agree that the first game's the best. And then I think people, I don't know, people are always divided on whether they go to Shadow or Rise. I'm honestly kind of divided as well because I think Rise has some like really beautiful locations, but I think Shadow kind of focuses on what the franchise should do, which is focus on like platforms and puzzles and stuff like that. There isn't like a lot of gun combat in Shadow, which I think was a good, direction. Either way, it's definitely time for Lara Croft to return. It's been I think at least like 3 years since Shadow now, which is crazy. But yeah, I'm definitely excited. Obviously, Unreal Engine 5 is cool, right? But, want to see the game. It's obviously talent at the end of the day, which makes these games good, not the engine. But still very exciting to see that they're using it. But yeah, pretty much that's all we know at the moment. What'd you think about that, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, there being a new Tomb Raider game makes sense. I think they kind of teased it a while back. I think last year, right? It was the like anniversary or whatever of Tomb Raider, so they kind of said they were working on a new one. But it being on Unreal 5 is cool. I'm not excited about it mainly just because the past few years for Crystal Dynamics hasn't been the best. So I'm not like super confident in the game. Like you, I think the first game in the trilogy was the best, Tomb Raider 2013. I really like that game. At Rise, I was kind of on. Like I like the opening to that game, and it just kind of dropped off for me. And they didn't really work on Shadow. That was Eidos Montreal, but I didn't really like that game at all personally. I got really bored of it. But I think it was just at that point that gameplay had gotten kind of stale because I never really liked the gunplay or anything in those games. It was never great. And then obviously Avengers was Avengers, so you know. I hope this is a return to form for them. It's been a while, right? And they're just getting started on development, so they've had a decent amount of time to really think about the project, and I do hope it turns out well. I'd like to see it go more of an old Tomb Raider direction. Just because whilst I thought that trilogy was okay, I would like to see just a more traditional Tomb Raider game, to be honest. Um, I really like the games back on like PS3 as well. Like I remember really enjoying Legends and Anniversary, and then Underworld as well. Those were really fun games on PS3. So if they were to go back and do something more similar to that, I'd be happy. But I'd understand if they kept with the more prequel storyline, right? Because they did really well. So either way, I'm interested to see what they do, but I'm not. I'm more hesitant. I'm not like excited for it or anything.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, we'll move on to another exciting news story, which has to do with PS3 emulation on PS5. Yeah, this is coming from VGC. They're reporting that Sony is apparently working on proper PS3 emulation on PS5. This one isn't really that surprising. You can look at the patents that they've been doing for years now. Mark Cerny's been filing a lot of patents on trying to solve backwards compatibility. Charlie, you kind of said this best, like I think like a week or two ago. Like obviously it's something they want to do, just for like preservation of games, right? And obviously it allowed them to make a lot of money, so I'm sure they're actively looking into it. Not sure if it'll ever come, but like you, I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually do solve it in the next year or two. Eventually, just because I know those patents really have been ramping up lately. Uh, but yeah, that's awesome to see. I would love to see proper PS3 emulation. It's like a really hard thing, obviously, because the whole entire architecture of the PS3 is so different from everything else. It's so like very different. Obviously, they adapted the cell processor and just everything around that. They tried to go for their own implementation, and that kind of hurt them in the end. Obviously, with like the development of a lot of PS3 titles, that was really rough at first, and obviously now looking back, it's really hard to, bring those games forward without like doing the remastered treatment, right? It's really hard to get those games natively running on PS5. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Charlie? I know you've talked about it a lot before, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I think it makes sense, like you said about the patents. Like it has been ramping up a lot. It's clearly something that Cerny and a lot of the team do want to get working, but it costs a lot of time and money. And that's something that Sony will have to stick with if they want to do it. I think it's worthwhile because once it does get up and running, I think it will definitely be a good investment for them if it eventually replaces streaming of PS3 games on PS Plus, right? Like it would make a lot of sense if in a year or two they go, hey, you can now also download all those games that we've been adding for the past few years. So it would be like a catalog of say 400 PS3 games that you can suddenly just download. But I mean, just look at the emulators on PC, right? And you can just see how difficult it is to get that stuff running. It's probably one of the most like complicated consoles to emulate.
Yeah.
Like RPSC3, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Is a really good emulator, but it struggles to run on a lot of systems just because of how weird that architecture was. I was kind of hoping that it would be one that would run on Steam Deck, but it just can't handle it. It just doesn't work at all on the Steam Deck because of it being like an APU rather than a CPU and GPU, so it just doesn't work. But yeah, it's weird. I do think it'll happen eventually, but it is just such a weird system to develop for that it is a hard one to get running natively on different hardware. But I'm sure the wizards at Sony will eventually wrap their heads around it. It's just one of those that is going to take a lot of time.
I mean, how many years did we ask for the ability to change our PlayStation Network names? Like anything's
That's
possible
true.
after that. That
That's
was like a
true.
decade of waiting. So I'm sure we're not within the realm of possibility just yet. So yeah, that's awesome. But everything you said is true. It's probably one of the hardest consoles to emulate for, as even like fan, services that have been working on this for years continue to like struggle against that console. So yeah. Anyways, ending off on a really exciting news story is the fact that Remedy is working on a Max Payne 1 and 2 remake. Yeah, very, very exciting stuff to see this announced. The cool thing about this is it's being funded by Rockstar, obviously, developers of Max Payne 3. It's going to be developed by Remedy, and they're giving it the same treatment that they gave it to like Control and their other games, so it's going to have that AAA budget, which is really nice. They've announced they're bundling 1 and 2 together, which is cool to see. And right now they're in the kind of like the concept developing phase. So this game is probably still going to be, quite some time off. But it's still very exciting. I played Max Payne 1 literally last summer. I streamed through like the entirety of those games. I think you even watched Charlie. That was
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
So I definitely want to go play 2 now, and I'll definitely looking forward to these remakes. Like it's one of those games that it's gonna look so different. Obviously, just yeah, it's gonna be so great to do the comparisons before and after. Uh, my advice always, like, if you're into these games, like, you could wait for the remakes, but I always like playing the originals and just being able to have, like, some point of, like, comparison between the two. So, I even did that for Demon Souls when that came out. Like, I played Demon Souls on the PS3, like, 2 months before it came out on PS5, and I don't regret it. It was just fun to see, the differences they made. But yeah, very, very exciting stuff. Anyways, I'll let you take it away because obviously you're just as, a big fan on this as well. You love Remedy. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, this was out of nowhere, right? Like,
Right.
I don't know who could have predicted this would happen, especially with like current Rockstar like
It's the
news,
best
right?
news they've had
Like
in a
it's
while.
exactly. But I mean, in the press like thing or whatever, like it's very clear that this was a Remedy pitch. Like they pitched this to Rockstar, because they want to be able to get this game into more hands, which I think is great because they are all great games. I do hope that this means we get a port at least of Max Payne 3 because obviously Remedy did help on that game. They weren't the sole developers, but they did work on Max Payne 3 alongside Rockstar. So I do hope that we at least get a port of it alongside these games because Max Payne 1 and 2 are great. But Max Payne 3 is arguably better than those games. It's a hell of a lot like more modern, obviously. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to compare it to 1 and 2 remake. Because gameplay wise, they do feel kind of different. 1 and 2 are very much Remedy games, right? Like they're very fluid and fast paced, even with the slow mo. Whereas 3 is a little bit more heavy because it is on like Rockstar's engine, and the like physics and like how characters move is very similar to like GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption and that kind of movement. So I'd be interested to see like where they go with it, whether they kind of embrace more of the Max Payne 3 route or not. But I definitely want to see them do 3 as well. Even if it's just the single player, I'd love to see them bring the multiplayer back as well because Max Payne 3 had a really fun multiplayer mode. Like the ability to have like slow mo in multiplayer is really cool. So, if they bring that back as well, that'd be awesome. But I don't know. Maybe it would be a case of if it does really well, which I'm sure it will, Rockstar might think about porting it. But I mean, they ported like LA Noire last gen, so I don't see why they wouldn't port Max Payne 3, right? Like, but then I could say the same thing about Red Dead, so who knows?
Very true.
But yeah, I'd love to see them bring back 3 alongside these. But either way, I'm very excited. I'm sure it's a long ways off. I know Remedy's a big team, but they're working on a lot right now, so
Alan
I
Wake
imagine
to
this is far off.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Alan Wake 2,
The
the Control
Xbox
like
control
multiplayer
crossfire
thing.
as well.
Crossfire just came out, so
Oh, okay.
they're done with that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Crossfire and then the Control multiplayer thing, probably a Control sequel. Like, there's a lot on their plate right now. So, yeah, I don't expect to see this for a while, but yeah, I'm very excited about it.
That's awesome. They're definitely one of the more exciting studios at the moment for games I'm personally interested in. So that's awesome. But yeah, that's it for the gaming news this week. Ended on like such a big news story. Love that. Love that. Out of nowhere, really started and ended with Monkey Island and Max Payne. Like those are both two series that you wouldn't think would be returning. But yeah, we got both of those this week, which is cool to see. Never know what's going to happen in the gaming industry, which is awesome. But yeah, that has been it for this week. Thank you, of course, for sticking through the whole entire episode. And yeah, we'll see you next week for episode 65. See you later.
See you later.